A while ago, I made a tutorial on an animation created with Pastiche and Newton, two plugins we developed for After Effects. The Newton part was really cool, but the issue was that it required an extra tool to handle the animation keyframe offset. The good news is that during the summer of 2025, Adobe released a new version of After Effects with a feature that lets you do this offset easily, so I wanted to redo this tutorial a bit differently, and without Pastiche, to take advantage of this new feature. I also found an interesting recipe for creating the animated gradient background, so I'm going to show you that method today. And feel free to download the final project directly from our website. The link is in the description. Alright, let's get started. I've prepared a text layer with the layout already set up. We're going to convert it to a shape layer right away. Once that's done, we can delete the original layer and just keep our shape layer. Then we launch Newton and ask it to separate our elements. Small side note here, Newton can only separate elements from a shape layer. It doesn't work directly on a standard text layer. Here, it shows a little warning message saying there are too many polygons and that we should optimize the scene. Don't panic, we'll just ignore it for now and head back into After Effects. We're going to select all our shape layers, which are now nicely separated, and apply center anchor point in layer content, because the anchor points of our layers are all centered in the middle of my composition right now. We immediately relaunch Newton. Since the anchor points were previously at the center of the comp, the objects are now all stacked in the middle of my composition. Makes sense. We select all our objects, right-click and reset body transform. This way, all our letters snap back to the right place. If we run a quick preview, we see the text falling due to gravity, but more importantly, it's choppy. We're not getting real-time playback. Let's optimize all that. We select our objects, go to Body Properties Advanced and enable Use Convex Hull. Then a quick trip to the General tab, and we set Mesh Precision to 0. The simulation is now in real time. Now we completely turn off gravity by setting the magnitude to 0. Then we go to the magnetism section and activate repulsion. To make it look more natural, we'll use the randomizer on the intensity, with values between 0.1 and 0.5. And here's what it looks like. The randomizer is really great for breaking up that mechanical feel and getting a much more organic result. We're actually going to do the exact same thing for the magnetism distance, with a randomizer between 30 and 200, and to prevent our letters from sliding and spinning endlessly like they're on an ice rink, we'll add a bit of damping, both linear and angular. Now let's take care of that offset so our letters animate one after the other. Back in After Effects, we start by creating position keyframes. To speed things up, I use the shortcut Option-Shift-P on Mac or Alt-Shift-P on PC. Then we use the new offset feature. We simply shift our animation keyframes by holding Command-Option on Mac or Control-Alt on PC. There we go. We've applied a 150 frame offset to all our keyframes. And we can launch Newton again. So, here's the trick. For Newton to understand this offset we just created, we need to select all the objects and change their type from dynamic to kinematic. What does this do? Well, the letters will first stay static, then play back the animation from our keyframes. And as soon as that animation finishes, they become dynamic again, and physics takes over. In our case, there's no actual animation since there's only one keyframe per layer, so our objects just stay static and then become dynamic. We bring back just a tiny bit of gravity to give the impression that the letters are flying away like they're being pushed by the wind. And here's what the simulation looks like. We render it out and head back into After Effects. We get this new composition with our animation. As you can see, this step is really quick to set up, and the result feels super natural. Alright, let's move on to part 2, creating the background. We're going to create a new composition and call it Color Base. This is what will handle our colors. We create a new solid called Ramp and apply the gradient ramp effect to it. We choose a radial ramp and tweak the colors to go with white and magenta. Then we pre-compose all of this and name it Color Final. This composition will be used to handle all the distortions. On this pre-comp, we apply the Wave Warp effect. It's a classic After Effects effect, with quite a few settings to tweak: wave height and width, direction, speed. I'm also using the pinning feature here to pin the edges, which stops the pixels along the borders from being displaced or distorted. And most importantly, we have a bunch of different wave types: noise, square, triangle. Long story short, plenty to play around with. Here, we're going to go with a smooth noise. We crank up the wave height and width all the way and slightly change the direction. If we do a preview, whoa, that's way too fast. We're going to calm things down a bit and drop the speed to 0.01. There we go, we have a much smoother ripple. Now we're going to duplicate this effect and tweak the settings a bit, specifically changing the wave type. We start to see an interesting pattern emerge. If any little black spots pop up, don't panic, you just need to slightly tweak the wave height to fill them in. We're starting to get some nice distortions. We duplicate it one more time to add another effect. The result is really nice. You just need to adjust the values as you go to avoid any holes. We're going to go back to the color part, and here's a handy little trick, by the way. Go to the View menu and use the Split with New Locked Viewer function. This lets you view Color Final and Color Base side by side, super useful. Don't forget to lock the view. So, we jump back into Color Base and add a black layer that we'll call Vignette. We slap an inverted elliptical mask on it, a nice feather, and our texture instantly gains some depth. We keep going by adding a new layer with the Fractal noise effect. The idea is to bring some texture to the gradient. We push the contrast up, choose the spline type, and drop the complexity. We scale the whole thing up a tiny bit, drag our vignette on top, and set this layer to multiply mode. Next, we create an adjustment layer and apply Quick Chromatic Aberration, the famous free plugin from Plugin Everything. You'll see, it's really going to enrich our gradient. Not bad, right? We're also going to add a little light impact with an elliptical shape layer and a white gradient. We distort it slightly to give it a cool shape and put the vignette back on top. Back in Color Final, quick preview. It's starting to look pretty sweet. The next step is optional, but for me, glow is life. So we add the deep glow effect from Plugin Everything. By default, it's too strong, so we turn down the intensity. It's just going to add a very aesthetic slight blur and blend the colors together. After that, it's really just fine-tuning. I do some minor tweaks by eye to center everything a bit better, add a little turbulent displace for subtlety. It all comes down to the details, it's really about feeling it out. There's no magic recipe, you just have to go with your gut. I also added a hue saturation effect to animate the colors. By animating the master hue, we can create a really nice, seamless color loop. Also keep in mind that you can animate the evolution of the fractal noise. Or the phase of the wave warps. Once we're happy with the result, it's time to layer it with our letters. We create one last comp with our simulation and our gradient. we slightly adjust the size and position of the text. Here, I find the gradient swallows the text a bit, so I go back to make a few tweaks. I darken the vignette a little and recenter the wave warp, which was shifting everything too far to the left. I also scale up the fractal noise a little bit. And there you go. After some trial and error, I'm sticking with this version. Here's the final render. As you can see, there's a huge experimental part to this kind of effect. We tinker, we test. It doesn't always work on the first try, you have to adjust. That's why I'm making the After Effects project available to you, so you can dig into it and make it your own. I really hope this little tutorial will be helpful for your future projects. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us on socials. See you soon.